Hi, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. So now I just want to preface this. I know that Lori from Way of Positive Change, she is live. Please go back and watch if you were supporting her on her channel. I only have a little bit of time with Gerald here, and so I definitely needed to get on when I could because I think he's a perfect little match for my my shenanigans this morning when we're looking at the dark side of the soul of the country, especially the United States. So just letting you know that I know that she is on. No problems if you guys watch her and then come back to me or vice versa.
That's why there's playback.
Yes, that's why there's playback. So I just wanted you guys to know that for sure. Um, Gerald, for those who do not know who you are, please introduce.
I am Tarot Stash. I do lots of online content. I do readings. I have conversations with people. I host a lot of shows. One of my favorite things to do is caffeinated and unfiltered readings where it's we take the gloves off and we hit you like a good shot of espresso.
Yeah,
So
you're gonna invite me to one of those.
I can do that. I can do that.
I can get spicy.
Yes. Well, and I think, and here's the thing with that is they are legitimate readings. They just don't have all of the fluff around them. They're not, there's no bow around them or anything like that. They will tell you what you need to know in a way that you need to hear it. And then we offer support around that. So, but yeah, so.
Absolutely. You know, back in the day, I don't know how old you are, but I'm pretty sure you're close to my age. But back in the day, we were always taught you can't tell somebody about this or that, or you have to spin it, or you have to be gentle. And back then, it was probably good advice. But today, I think that we have a lot of spirit and a lot of people who are growing in their own
Yes.
that they can handle the the legit truth or whatever it is that we see,
Yes.
and then they get to decide whether they accept it or not accept it. And I think that it's only from our old teachings that we're just trying to break free from.
Yeah.
you know
Yes, and it is one of those things that as readers and empaths and channelers and mediums and whatever, it's our responsibility to make sure that we deliver a message in a way that somebody can hear it, and then hold space for them so
yeah,
they can allow it to sink in. Because one of my mentors said, honesty without support is simply brutality.
correct. I completely agree. I know when I do readings, like, how is my money doing? And I would get a card like there's money, and then there's the Five of Pentacles. I'm like, how do I tell this person what your endeavors or your future endeavors are going to bring you to poverty, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I preface this like you asked the question about your thing. It says I would definitely suggest reevaluating your choices in the future. According to the cards, they are not going to bring you as much money as you are wanting.
Not if you keep doing it this way.
Yeah, definitely reevaluate. Yes, make different. You can always that's the one thing that I always want to always say out loud to anybody and everybody. Just because a card reading says the future is going to hold this, it does not mean that you, as a person, you have the absolute birthright, and I want to emphasize birthright, to reevaluate your decisions and change the course of that future.
Mm-hmm.
That is your birthright to do that. And when you come to us, we are giving you a outcome based on energies going forward. It could be the opposite. If you keep on going this way, you're going to gain a lot of money. Please continue on. Don't.
Well, and that is so true. I always like to think that readings are a snapshot of the energy at that time.
Yes.
Simply by asking the question, you have adjusted the energy, you've shifted it because you've drawn attention to it. Look
Correct.
at me, I'm not going, you've drawn attention to it. So
Correct. So I just wanted to always say that out loud, that this is, this is not the final countdown. This is an opportunity to derail or continue on.
Yes, I like that. I like that. I'm a big supporter of I use tarot and readings as a way to inform me so that I can make a really good decision based upon all the information available.
Correct.
So,
It's a tool that we use. Okay, so
yes.
now that we have definitely discussed all of that, let's get into the meat and potatoes of the reason why we're here.
Yes.
So, as you can tell from the title, this is we're going to let's talk about the dark side of the soul of the United States. My first question up, and this is where I have Gerald with us today, is because he can really get to a soul connection, even with the United States. I've seen what he can do. I kind of think that maybe I do too, but with both of us, with the energies that are going to be together, we're going to look at the first question: is where did the United States derail the most?
Hmm.
Where was this, and what does it look like, and what information can we get? Is it helpful to know? Is there any information in the past that we need to know at the present time? That's a better question.
Is there any information in the past that we need to know for where to go from here? Okay. All right. And by the way, hi, everybody in chat.
Absolutely. Hello to everybody in the chat. I'm going to get down here. It says sometimes the audio is bad. Is there anybody else having audio problems? Or is it just.
There were people who were talking about that. So,
I don't know. Sometimes I'll mute myself to readjust the audio.
okay. And I'm using a new mic. So, but, okay. So where did we go off? Well, what we did is we had far too much hope and not enough action to keep the from okay, how do I say this? We rested on our laurels and allow thinking that we were all that, and we didn't work to remain all of that and to build those relationships, especially after some of the conflicts that were going on, some of the wars. Because what happened was we got misdirected energy. It's the Ace of Wands reversed, and this is we rest. We felt we were all that, and we didn't have to show up. We also were not. We were not taking care of things that were going on in our own environment. I have the Two of Swords. Two of Swords. We did not make the choices. When it came to making difficult choices, the thought process wasn't actually clear. We didn't have an end game in mind. So we were making choices that, we were making choices. We were not seeing the impact of all of those choices and being willing to stand up for what that meant. I mean, and we stopped using our judgment. We stopped understanding what was going on. I also, this is a soapbox for me. We stopped appreciating the value that every person brings in to the environment, and the patriarchal approach of it really caused us to be unbalanced. So, but that's my start. What about you?
Go ahead and mute so that we can readjust the audio. Sometimes that just works. Okay, cool. So what I got was my situationals. I did my situationals, and if anybody wants to get these cards, I'm pretty sure I got them off of Etsy or Amazon. That's the only places I usually get them, but I'm pretty sure it's Etsy. It's called situationals. And my situationals kind of give me a so the first one is signs. Like we literally like a tsunami is coming, and the scientists like, yeah, it is, and then they turned around and focused on something else, right? The hi, honey. Um,
Hi.
so the signs, we just literally just passed over the signs, and then we projected that into the future. Ignore the signs. Ignore what they have to say. Ignore what the scientists have to say. This brings us money. This will bring us wealth. It'll all work out in the end. And then, of course, they went to the financial. Instead of going to the spiritual or the emotional or the compassionate side of this country, it all went to the financial. Now, the thing about that is the financial aspect of it and making money and this, that, and the other overrode the fact that our ascension was upon us. They gambled it away. They gambled our ascension away. Now, I believe that a lot of things happened in that moment where they gambled our ascension away. They had to rein it in. They had to figure out how to control and to think and to keep their narrative going. A lot, I think, maybe had to do with organized religion. I think it had a lot to do with fear tactics, like this world's going to collapse, or this, that, and the. I mean, anything and everything they did. They put parentheses around our inability to ascension for generations. And it talks about this where I have the eight of swords reversed with the inner critic. They told everybody to your inner critic, if you feel afraid, there must be something wrong, right? Who's providing the fear? That's the part that we forgot to teach people. Who is providing that fear? We can do anything and everything the right way with or without fear. It's irrelevant. Fear can be produced, and that's one thing that I learned. And under the moon, everything was hidden in the back alleys, and nobody talking about it. Shh. We have the Ten of Cups again. Money became king. We have the Four of Cups underneath the Ascension, the Four of Cups underneath the Ascension, and we didn't take the Ascension. And of course, gambling it away, the Queen of Pentacles. Now, the Queen of Pentacles, the creativity, I think, is what we're talking about when they gambled it away. They creatively made sure that it all looks sparkly and better over here with the money over here. So, yeah, that was pretty powerful, actually, of how.
May I add something?
Of course.
The moon, here's the thing to remember about the moon, is the moon reflects the light of the sun. Things look different in the full light of day. So things are not what they appear when you see the moon. And we have to be willing to, yes, it's intuitive, but we also need to remember that it looks different. It can look different in 12 hours because we're in the full light of that sun.
Absolutely. And welcome, Sherry. I know you're at lunch.
Thank you. I am. What was the question?
The question was, what was the question?
What was the origin of where, what took us off track?
Right. So in the America, the dark side of the soul, what derailed us from becoming who we were supposed to be? In the dark.
Something that I've always felt for a long time was a lot of the misdirected courses that people have been following in this country kind of started up when the evangelical base started preaching not only the prosperity gospel that if you give money to me and my church, you're going to be wealthy. But it was also that that Jesus is coming back any day. So, it's like everything that they did was because Jesus is coming back any day. Well, he may or may not. Who knows? I mean, personally, I think it's more of a Christ consciousness, as I've heard it called, and it's individual to each person. It's got nothing to do with an individual person. That's my belief. But I know people who are willing to sell their soul to the devil just about all because they believe that they're going to be zepped up into the sky and they won't have to worry about the consequences.
Sherry, you bring up a really good point. Aren't they? Didn't they do that with Trump? He's coming back. He's coming
Yeah,
back. He's coming
they
back.
look at him they look at him as the return of Jesus. That's
Yeah,
what they're saying now, that he's Jesus returning.
right. So that makes a lot of sense. The reason why that goalpost kept on getting pumped back and pumped back is because they have done this with the religion part. Jesus is coming back. He's coming back. He's coming
Yeah,
back. He's coming back, which keeps people there believing that they have to stay in that zone in order to be okay. That's like an
yeah.
eye-opening situation for me. I have to start reading on.
And when it comes to the moon, like Gerald was saying, yes, the moon reflects the sunlight, and we tend to think of the moon card as it's hiding something. But I had an epiphany in a reading about a year ago uh, from the moon card, and it was that while things are in shadow, it still illuminates. We just have to be willing to see what it is that it's illuminating, because it's going
I
to look different in the moonlight than it does in the sunlight.
that's so I'm going to start using that for sure, because you're right, because under the moon things there's shadows that do not look right.
Right.
Absolutely.
But you can still, if you're under a full moon, you can see outside. You can see what's around you pretty much. I mean, it's not like being under the direct sunlight, but it still illuminates what's going on around you. But it does it in a very subtle, kind of distorted way,
Yeah, I
if you
agree.
get what I mean.
I
So
do.
What do you think, Gerald?
to your point, Sherry, about the idea of religions coming in and saying certain things. This may be an unpopular opinion. I'm going to say it. Um, Religions, in like the Hierophant card, it's someone who is to set up gateways so we can have our individual experiences with divinity, whatever that is for you. What has happened is there are some people who are just taking what others are saying and not having their own individual experiences, so that they can pull that from that understanding. And it's
Right.
unfortunate because there are and my mother, devout Catholic, very spiritual person, she found her spirituality in the religion, and I am so grateful for that, because mom always would say, I'd ask her this question, and she would say, I don't know. What do you think about that? And allow
Yeah.
me to think about and interpret what I meant, whilst supporting me in a way that is necessary. I love the idea of people finding their spirituality, but and that's extremely important, because there's it feels very much like a bit of a loss of the soul.
Hmm.
So the dark side of the soul, we don't know we have it. We don't remember. We don't know what it looks like. We don't know, or we've lost the personal experience of being uncomfortable in our bodies and getting okay with our soul, so that we can grow and evolve. So the 10 of Pentacles showed up upright, and this is the idea of that generational thing. It's the different generations working together and supporting each other. When we've separated from our past and tradition, it really causes difficulty. We need to have our own personal power and understand what it looks like, and to get comfortable with it,
Absolutely.
and to be awkward with it. Let's be truthful. Sometimes when we get new power, it's like, ooh. So I actually think what we need to do is we need to embrace our individual power and what it means for us, and that true connection to others. And if
Yeah.
it's that, I'm pointing, apologies, if I'm looking at you, Sheila, and I say I see the good in you, it's that idea of namaste. The light in me sees the light in you.
Right.
If we did that more often.
Well, you see, that's a danger to the people who want money.
Well, that's very shallow minded, actually.
But you see where we derailed, right? Right.
Yes,
So they
absolutely.
understood. I think of this idea of ascension and power and all of that was very apparent to those who were watching their power slip away. Because if we, as a human, as a community, do not give a power to one human being, and they all have equal power, nobody can become the god. Nobody can become Trump. Nobody can become a Trump if that was possible in this world. So he would not. So that was the thing, is the dark side of the soul, where this all began. This is the outcome that we're experiencing right here, right now. It's the reason why when we picked money as our god, and then we have a man who represents money is now their god.
Yeah.
And these are the
Yeah.
things I think that we need to really. Okay, so let's circle back around to spirituality. So now that we know what the problem is, and I mean it's so obvious to us, right? So let's circle all the way back around and remember that if we go back to where we derailed and start moving forward from there, and realizing that we ourselves have power, and then we can join somebody else's power, then the power of that money, they don't have it. It's like a fake quicksand. They don't have the power they think they have. Does that make any sense?
Yes, it
Well, a
does.
lot of them gain their power in control of others.
Correct.
If you can control your congregation to hang on every word, do exactly as you say, put your money where they say, whatever the circumstance may be, then you've got one person that's on this power trip, and then you've got a whole flock of people who blindly follow because they think that's spirituality, instead of doing that soul search within themselves to discover what is it that is the God factor in me. Because we all have that. It's all in us. It's just a matter of discovering it. Some people do it through different types of religions. No religion. You've got Wicca, you've got pagan, who honors and celebrates the earth and nature and the magic of what spirit can bring us. You've got organized religions who, through their own, I think, explosion of growth, took up the mantle of send me money and I'm controlling you now. You're going to do what I say to do. And for
Well,
a lot of people to not have that is scary.
I think also another aspect of that is the beholden aspect of our souls. If I give $100 to Gerald for a project that he has,
Mm-hmm.
now he feels beholden to me somehow, some way.
Yeah.
Even
There's an
if,
obligation there.
yeah, even if I gave it to him freely, under the assumption of kindness, now Gerald may have a beholden feeling. So therefore, when you get into an organized religion, you put money into the plate, right? The beholden relationship, the unhealthy relationships start.
Yes.
The preacher now has to preach what the congregation wants, not what he's supposed
Yeah.
to, but what the congregation wants and how much money he's going to get that day. Then the opposite side is, now that I have given you money, you better preach what I want you to say. You better. This is
Yeah.
political
Oh yes.
ground. This is the ground of it. So I
Yes.
want to do a
And this
reading.
is why our founders were so smart in wanting to keep church and state separate. Because they were
Absolutely
like, religion has nothing to do with running a government.
correct.
You know, a government should be based on laws. That's what we were built on.
Now, Gerald, I know
But you
you
have the
had.
false narrative out there that says otherwise.
I,
I
I,
agree.
I, I was pulling some cards, and this
I
idea
have no
of
cards, sorry.
one of the things that happened is we forgot, or it was taught out of us by example, that if I lift you up, if I lift everybody up who's watching this, simply because it is the right thing to do, I'm sharing something to make your world better. I benefit from that. It's a different
Absolutely.
energetic exchange. So I mean, Sheila, when you said I give Gerald $100 and I am beholden, I can feel beholden. I can. However, if individuals were to do more of that and just go, no, here, I don't want anything for it, we would start to believe that it was just simply because I wanted to. And
Right.
you know, so yeah, I mean,
And
It's
this
accepting the fact that the giver is going to be just as blessed in giving as the receiver is in receiving.
when
that
one
is
of us wins, all of us win.
this is true.
Right.
That is absolutely true. But the teachings that is not, we are taught to feel guilty. The
Oh, yeah.
worst word that we have ever have produced in our country, in our language, is the word guilt, shame, and I will stand behind that 100%. If there was no such thing as guilt and shame, we're not talking the guilty if you've done something wrong. I'm talking about guilt for no reason, shame for no reason, right? So
Yeah.
that aspect, I can take a gift from somebody at the highest level of energy, just like that person can give at the highest level of energy. Therefore, it is pure. No feelings or beholden or guilt or shame attached to it. We rise. But that's not what our society has done. Now, I do want to get into another reading before we
Okay.
get off track too much. So the next reading is that we've already read what message do we need to bring from the past into the future. So now we're here in the present time. So what is it that what tool are we using today to continue the dark side of the soul of this country? What tools? So if we can do some reading on that. What tools are we using today that we need to stop or get off of today that we're using in this country to continue that energy forward?
Well, since I don't have cards, I'm just going to say what I'm hearing in my head here. Um, Part of that is keeping people in a controlled mindset, um, taking away people's rights. telling women they don't have the right to make their own decisions about their own body. Um, telling this interracial couple you can't be together because you have a different race, or an LGBTQ couple, you can't be together because that's an abomination. It's all a form of control, of not allowing. I'm hearing it's a form of control of not allowing people to follow their own heart's path. That's what I'm hearing.
So you were asking, I had a little technical issue, my apologies. But what do we need to get rid of? Yes. Okay.
What tools are we using today that we need to stop at this point to continue that energy onto the future?
We need to remove the patriarchy. This idea that one is better than the other, instead of recognizing that there is a balance, there is a need for balance. We need to we need to break what is considered normal and acceptable behavior, even though it's not appropriate, not right. We need to, instead of living in the past, we need to focus on the future. I love the idea of, and I am going to misquote it, but this idea of is that there are indigenous people, the tribes, when they make decisions about what is the impact of this decision in 2 or 3 generations. We need to stop thinking about our own enjoyment and our own satisfaction and what appears to be a great little rainbow, but we all know in reality it's actually, there's a hell of a lot of rain associated with that rainbow. It's an illusion. So we
Right.
to rethink how we need to get rid of what we understand as being what happiness is, and that connection to each other. So yeah, most are not normal, just average.
They are not. And oh my gosh, this is
I like the
so.
way you put that, Gerald. Yeah.
All right, so the destruction of public education and an educated public can evaluate what is right.
Teach the ability to think.
Yeah. So, back in the day, public education was definitely here to create future scientists and doctors and stuff like that. That's where it kind of started. I got the Four of Wands with karmic. So the Four of Wands is, the harmony, the relaxation. The Four of Wands is, the celebration, the home, the community. So the karmic of the community, the karmic of the community. So it kind of reminds me of that relationship that you have with your community. What is it that you really think about your community? What is it? How do you interact with your community? Right? How do I interact with my community? Do I judge them, or do I accept them? Do I go out into my community and have this silent person walking around, or do I enjoy them? There's just a way that we should definitely start interacting with our community differently. It's not about them; it's about you. You know what I mean? It's really how you interact. And then I got the Ace of Wands, which is that creation, the creation of the male divine energy. Now, we enjoy our male counterparts. Don't get me wrong. We do. However, I think that even our male counterparts have been, how do we put this? Not presented correctly. Right? They were supposed to be head of household. They're supposed to be stronger mentally, emotionally. What I have been noticing today is that we're not making our men equal. Like the men have to be above the women. The women make sure that the man is above. There is no equal. And if we really start understanding that a partner is a partner is a partner is a partner, and bring this down to communicating it on an equal basis, I think that we will also start derailing their anarchy of higher and lower and the BS that comes out of that. I also got the Six of Wands and granting access granted. Now, the Six of Wands is like that transition, that moving on, that going forward, and granting access. That was really kind of bizarre to me. I'm like, what? Do we not grant access? Am I not granting access for growth? Am I? I have to ask them my question. When I sit back and I think that can't happen, maybe it should happen in order to grant access to go forward. I don't know, but what am I doing in my own life to grant access to moving forward and transitioning? Am I stuck in my ways? That's what just came to me. Am I stuck in my ways? Right? The worst thing I've ever heard out of anybody's mouth is, I've always done it this way. And I know right then and there's no growth. I've always done it this way. Or my mom
That's the way my mother did it. That's the way my grandmother did it. That's the way my great-grandmother did it.
No growth.
Okay. Yeah.
I agree. So the other one is happiness, but I got the reversed. I got happiness in here, but the reverse. The reversal of the Queen of Swords is cold-hearted. They think being happy is to be cold-hearted. Do you see the opposite of what has happened? Say the people who, like, let's talk about MAGAs. The opposite of being happy is, for the cold-hearted, we're going to be happy. Cruelty, we're going to get happy at the end. We have to just be cruel now. That bitter, that resentful, and that isolation. We have to be that way in order to get us to the promised land. And that is really where we have to, as people, this is for us to know that's not the way to promised land. We don't have to be cold-hearted to be given it to the promised land. And then another one is obsession. I got temperance in reverse. I'm getting a lot of reversed cards, and I'm probably one of the rare ones that do read a lot of reverse. But reverse is the extremes obsessions. Have you ever met somebody who has a collection? Say you collect something pink. And all of a sudden you come to their house is colored pink, their car is pink, their floors are pink, the walls are pink, and the furniture is pink. The overindulgence in our obsessions is not healthy. Now, this is the part that our country and our people have accepted. Oh, that's cute. Right? We have attached to, oh, that's cute, that's pretty cool. They even put them on the news. Look at this person. And the obsession. So they give the impression that an over obsessive mind is cute, good to go. Now, we as people have to really start being particular about our over obsessions on something and come back to the middle into a zone of comfortability. I like pink. I like that in pink, but I'm not going to make my whole life pink. Or dolls or whatever. The American disease, exactly, Foggy. It's an American disease that we have had over the overindulgence of obsession. So those are what my cards brought out. Any other commentary about them? Any thought process that came up for somebody else?
I think that makes sense. I think all of us talking about an important aspect of it. We need to find this balance, and instead of putting people into these boxes and forcing them to stay there, even though they evolve, that's one of the challenges. People grow and evolve, and we encourage that. Well, we've always done it that way. It doesn't work because the world is a different place. We as individuals are different. Then I am different now than when we started this live.
Correct.
And I want to embrace that.
I used to have a boyfriend back in the day, way back when I in my 20s. It's like when we first met, and like 2 years later, he would say, "You changed." And I used to go, I didn't know that was a crime, right? Right? But what he wanted was for me to stay that person the whole time, because he had different plans, lying, cheating, stealing, whatever he was doing out in the world, and he needed me not to be aware. Therefore, he continually throughout that whole relationship reminded me that you're changing and you need to stop changing.
Because if you change, then I have to change.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
I don't want to
bingo.
change.
My husband used to tell me, after 20 years of marriage, just before he passed, he used to say to other people, he said, my wife is not the person I married. Thank God. She's changed. Now I've changed. And fortunately we kind of changed together. But there's a lot of relationships where, just like what Sheila was sharing with that ex-boyfriend, where one person doesn't want the other person to change in any way, shape, or form. Or you hook this guy that you really like, and then you spend all your time trying to change them to be something else. And then once they change, you don't want them anymore. I've seen that with a lot of couples, and it's like, well, why did you change him to be this if that's not what you wanted? You wanted what he was in the beginning. So,
Yeah, I after getting out of that relationship, I conceded to my innermost self that I will not be in the changing profession. It's like if I cannot accept that person for who they are, and they can't accept for me who I and my growth.
Yes.
If they're not accepting my growth, then that's the plateau of the relationship.
Yes. Yes.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Jeffrey and I, when we were working on our marriage vows, we saw a lot of vows that people wrote, and it always turned our stomach when people said, "You complete me," and it's just like, really? I don't want to complete you. I want a whole person. I want someone who is who they are, and I want somebody who's willing to give 100% to being their most authentic self and sharing that with me.
Yeah.
That's what we need more of.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just like when you hear somebody say, why can't I find a boyfriend? Why can't I find a husband? And something I've always said to them is well, either you're not ready for that relationship yet, or the person that's been planned for you is not ready yet. You don't want somebody that's not ready to be in that kind of a relationship. What good is that going to do?
Well, here's the harsh truth about relationships. Water seeks its own level.
Yeah.
You have a person who shows up who's a liar. That doesn't mean that you out there willy-nilly lying. You are not telling yourself the truth about something. And that liar has now showed up one more time for you to understand how devastatingly damaging not being truthful with yourself or with another human being can be in this world. And I was like, I didn't like that, because I love honesty and the truth, right? I'll tell you anything you want to know. But when I start looking inside, am I being truthful about something that I think about myself? I could be
Am I
walking around
being true to
happy.
myself?
Yeah, I could be walking around acting like I'm the happiest person on earth, but in my mind I'm saying, Sheila, you're an idiot. And all day long I'm saying that, but I'm not telling nobody. What was it? Socrates said that if you're being dishonest with yourself, you have an enemy from within.
Yeah.
And so those are the type of things that we're talking about, right? And if you have somebody that shows up who is an honest person, wow, water seeking its own level. I'm like, oh, good. I'm finally I'm finally changing from within me something in order to attract what it is that I have out there, because water seeks its own level. And that goes with friends and everything, really. And I'm not.
Yeah, because life changes you every instance every day, depending on what happens in your day, it changes you in some form. I mean, God, I was just talking to somebody the other day who, with this last shooting, the Chiefs parade, their daughter was there. It was 20 feet away from someone who got shot, and it changed them, rightfully so, and it changed her daughter, rightfully so, because something that you don't expect to happen happens. That's a shock to the system, you know? And it's like you can sit and think, well, how would I react? But you really don't know that until it happens. And that's when you discover how you're going to react to that situation. But if
Correct.
something traumatic happens, it's going to change you. And it's going to change your outlook on things.
It's supposed to change you.
Exactly.
Let's get that. Let's start saying the right thing.
Yes.
Everything that you go through in life and all your challenges, this, that, and it's supposed to change you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And resisting that change is where we go wrong.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Because change is uncomfortable.
Yep.
The thing about that, though, is change is oftentimes good. It's the adjustment that we have to go through in order to feel like we're at a new normal. Because I want that end result. I don't want to have to go all through all the stuff in the center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I wish I could have the just close my eyes and pop open to Sheila is just an enlightened human being. Let's go.
Yes, but you're still going to have some sharp edges because you didn't file them down through the process.
Exactly. Yeah. So I actually don't want that. I like let me put this there. I keep on saying I like going through all of this, and I'm going to be honest with myself. I cannot stand my emotions tanking. Okay, I want to be honest with myself. But what I know is the benefit of walking through it and accepting my energy or my emotions tanking outweighs the uncomfortableness that I have to go through. Now, I do preface this as the less I fight, the faster I go through. And it is within the fight that I have the worst time of it. Like that wheel of life. The wheel of life is going to turn no matter what. Sometimes we're high, we're all happy, everything's good, but that wheel is going to turn, and we're going to go into the bottom of our wheel. And the thing about it is, this is where people in this country, and a lot of my friends, and me included, all of a sudden that wheel starts to turn, and I'm skidding on the no, and I'm putting my feet in because God forbid, literally, that I go through a tough time emotionally and come out the other end with the benefit of knowing the dark side of my soul. God forbid that. But our bad emotions or our tough times does not define who we are. It refines who we are.
Yes.
Exactly. I mean, I think of all the crap
Yeah.
that I have been through in my lifetime. But it was because of all the crap that I've been through in my lifetime that brought me to now. And where I am now, learning and growing and seeking for that higher knowledge of spirit that I didn't find in a church and I didn't find in a religion. It wasn't until I let go of all of the outer trappings and just
Gerald, don't
started looking within. That's when I started discovering it.
yeah.
Um, but it was through some very painful losses, losses of people that meant the world to me.
I know
And
Gerald
it
has
was
to go pretty soon.
through that pain. Yeah.
Sherry, I don't mean Gerald's
So,
got to go pretty soon, so hang on just a second.
Okay.
Sheila, you were talking about the wheel turns. So this is the wheel. And here's the thing about the wheel. When we stay centered and we stay in that center and the wheel turns, we are less discombobulated. It's when we go to the extremes and this wheel shifts, we feel the intensity of that. The wheel turns, we're always going to feel it.
Yeah.
When we are centered in ourselves, our spirituality, our physicality, our environment, we feel we get less off put by change, and we can find our center faster. It's always change. Change always happens. It does. So
Yeah.
you had mentioned that idea of the wheel. It's when we are mostly centered with ourselves and we stop fighting and we go with it. Therein lies the, well, I'm not making it harder on myself. I'm just going to, go with the flow. I'm going to ride the waves. I'm going to keep walking instead of being stuck in the quagmire.
I agree, and there's a thing about saying stay centered, and then explaining how people can stay centered.
Yeah.
Now, I how I learn all of these spiritual rules, okay, if you want to call them, is I broke every one of them, and when I break all of the rules, I
Who
learn.
doesn't?
Yeah, I learned the hard way as to how I need to get back. Like, I will chase a rainbow where I know I had no reason changing. You
Yeah.
know, I'm like, I know that I'm not supposed to be in this situation. I know I'm not supposed to be talking to this person. I know that I need to get out of this situation. And I learn again one more time at the end of that, going, oh, see, you had the warnings. What are you going to choose next time?
Yeah.
And that's what we're talking about, is when we stay centered and come back, is literally stop lying to yourself about where you can go, what should be in your life, and who you should be talking to, and who, what, where, when, and how, in your own energy.
Well, that's how we grow.
Yes. That's how
That's
we
how we
evolve.
grow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Isn't that what teenagers do? They're
Yeah.
breaking away from what their environment is so they can figure out who they are in the world from their own perspective.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's why you see a teenager trying to rip their way out of family. You know,
Yes.
it's because they know that they have this calling from within, saying, I have to figure this out myself. I cannot have you do this for me anymore. Even though a parent wants to save their child from all the pain and suffering, the helicopter moms and this, that, and the other. But the truth is we have to teach them how to learn how to listen to their inner self more than anything else in this world. What I always ask my grandson, how do you feel about that decision?
Yeah.
Now, this is not something I was taught, but I want to teach my child my grandchild especially, to examine his feelings and his thoughts and what his wants are before he makes a decision. And that is important. And I have to practice that myself sometimes. But I'm just saying, these are where we need to definitely, and I want him, once he makes that decision, once he realizes what he thinks and all that, and if I know for a fact that he's going to fall on his face when he goes forward, I'm going to go, I support your decision.
Yes. That's hard to
Yeah.
do. It can be very
I
challenging.
did something similar over 20 years ago after my husband died. I had spent my whole life, I had been either someone's daughter, someone's wife, or someone's mother. But I didn't know who Sherry was. And I didn't know what Sherry wanted. And I literally ran away from home, and I moved 5 states away where I didn't know a soul, didn't have anything but the clothes on my back, to start over fresh and figure out, what do I want? And that was the start of my evolution into becoming who I am now, because it allowed me to figure out who me was.
And always remember, once you hit to where you are at now, you still have a decision to readjust.
Oh God, yes, I still got a long way to go.
It's not the end all. It is the opportunity to get up on a platform somewhere out in nature and sit down and say, is there any place that I need to readjust?
Yes. That's
Who
what.
was it who said it? It wasn't the
Sorry,
end of the journey. It's the journey itself.
absolutely. I know Gerald. I think you have like 5 minutes or 4 minutes left.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that's really important is um, thoughts and feelings are really important because they inform who we are in the world. Both of them are equally important. We need to give them enough time. About the dark side of the soul. How many people are really examining their thoughts and about what's been going on, and not just what they've been told, but what they've found out, what they've explored? How are their feelings about this? And not just that surface level, but really going down deep and examining, are they scared? I mean, because
Right.
anger is a gateway emotion. There's lots of things below that. So I think it's very important that we approach this from and honor the need for balance, and really get to some of the root understanding of how we interact with the world.
100%. Sherry, you can't do that on YouTube.
What?
What you just did. Smoke.
Oh,
You
well, I've
can't.
been trying to turn the camera away, but I
Yeah, you
forget
can't. Yeah,
sometimes.
you can't do that on YouTube live or YouTube at all. Just letting you know.
Oh, I will be more conscious of turning the camera away when I take a puff.
Yeah. So,
Um,
because they'll ban yeah
but
quick.
it was like we were talking about last night, Gerald, with the quote that Mel had made, that his spirits had told him, that struck me in such a way that I now have it as a tag on my email signature. And that was, don't let fear stand in front of you and block you. Let it stand behind you and push you forward. And I just
Fear
found that
can be
very profound.
manipulated. A fear can be manipulated. Okay, so let's take for instance, I'm going to go see a scary movie. I'm going to suspend all judgment so I can go into that movie and be afraid. That therefore, my emotions and my fear and all that can be manipulated from exterior circumstances. So my consciousness says when I feel afraid, um, I need to definitely understand where it's coming from. Is this genuine? Am I empathically feeling this from something else, somewhere else? And is there a real legitimate fear that's around me right now? You know what I mean? It's that question. And oh, get that out of the way. Stop it. Sherry, don't show
But
it.
I was, I, the alarm was going off on my phone. I was trying to click it off.
You'll get this banned quick. So stop. Um hopefully,
Yeah, I was trying to turn the alarm off on my phone. Sorry.
yeah, that's okay.
Uh,
So I mean, that's the thing that we're talking about is emotions. Our emotions, their emotions are important, and they're there for us. But we also have to acknowledge that we know that they can be um, manipulated from exterior positions or exterior problems or exterior something. So
Yes.
yep.
I mean, yeah, and it's just like everything. All of these things are a perspective, and where we are, we need to find things that are different, and explore things that are different than what we're used to, and that can be challenging. I think the dark side of the soul for the USA is we don't look at things differently enough. We don't learn from what others are doing and have done.
correct,
So,
correct.
yeah.
Or we look at the wrong people, for an example. The ones with the big fancy houses and the cars and the planes and the, whatever. Um, we want to hold those people up in esteem instead of looking at the person who's just everyday, honest, day to day, just doing their thing.
Hmm.
Correct. All right. Well, we're at an hour. That went by fast, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
Wow.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, of
Thank you
course.
for inviting me.
Yes, of course. And we definitely need these conversations. And I mean, I didn't even get up to like 200 people, but you know what? The dark side of the soul is not easy for people to look at.
No.
And once you
No,
say
it's
it,
not.
they're all like, I'm not going to go watch that.
Mhm.
Or they're going to wait till they're at home and they can watch it on replay, and then they can stop it when it gets too uncomfortable.
Yeah, they can get it. It
You
is.
know,
Let's get uncomfortable so that this change won't be so stagnant.
exactly.
Let's get on board. Let's get this done. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you guys see it on the replay. And remember that I know that I was on the same time Lori from Way of Positive Change was, but it was because I was able to catch Gerald at the time. And don't feel bad if you didn't watch this live, or you know, vice versa or whatever. Just send lots of love to Lori and let her know that, yeah, that. So, all right, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.